Join me in making a 14mm wood bead turn into a 20mm covered bead with seed beads. I can use these beads for fun necklaces like this, where I've just strung them, or anything else that you can imagine to do with them. For this project, we're going to need a few different colors of seed beads, a 14mm form of some sort. I have a wooden form here. And this is a wooden bead that's, like I said, about 14 millimeters, has a nice large hole in it, and it's a very lightweight. So when we add beads to it, the bead is still going to stay very lightweight. So even though we have sort of a larger bead here, this is about 20 millimeters when it's done. So even though it's about 20 millimeters, it's kind of big, it's definitely going to be lightweight and not too heavy to wear when you're wearing multiples of them. So here it is beforehand, about 14, and this is about 20. So you can see it's quite a size difference once you add the seed beads around it. I have 4 colors of seed beads here. You can do any color combination that you want. You can make it solid and just use one color, or you can do a pattern, or you can do like I did here, where it's just a variety of golds, and I picked it up in a very random pattern. You can see those side by side. So I'm starting out with 4 colors here, and I'm going to do each of my steps in a different color. I think that's the best way to learn something like this because it's easier to follow and see each step as you go. I have my needle and thread here, and I'm using the black so it's easy to see. You're just going to want a color that complements your beads. And I just have a size 10 needle here. You can use any size needle that you're comfortable with. I have a stop bead here at the end, and I'm going to use one of the stop beads in my project. So I'm going to grab one of my A beads and just use that as my stop bead. A little bit of tail thread, just enough to come back and tie the ends together. After the stop bead, I have 11 more beads for a total of 12 seed beads. And these are the size 11/0. I'm going to take my needle and go through my stop bead again and through the rest of my beads. So I'm just passing through all 12 beads again. And as I pull my thread, that'll form a loop, and all my seed beads here will pull into a little circle. I'm going to tie the ends of my thread together. So the thread that I'm working with, I'm just going to tie that around the tail and make sure that that little knot falls between my seed beads. Oftentimes the little knot will sort of catch on the seed beads and it'll pull some seed beads in the wrong direction. So we just want to be careful that we get that knot sitting nice and snug between the seed beads. I'm going to take my needle and pass through a couple beads here, just so that I'm not starting out right next to my knot. So that is my first step, or what we would consider like a first row. I'm now going to start picking up my second row. And I'm going to lose track of the rows here, I'm sure. So I'll do the best I can, but that's also why I have the different color seed beads here. I'm going to pick up 2 of my bee color here. And I'm going to do like a peyote stitch, but a little bit modified. I'm going to skip 1 seed bead and go through the next. So I'm sitting my 2 seed beads on top of the 1 little seed bead sitting below. And again, I'm going to pick up 2 seed beads, skip 1 seed bead, and go through the next. And I'm going to do this all the way around here. So 2, skip 1, and through the next. And you'll see that as you do this, the 2 beads that you're adding will sort of face outward. They'll kind of sit diagonal and kind of like sit outward from each other. Pick up 2, skip 1, and go through the next. So the next bead here, since this is my last little set of 2, the bead that I'm going through for my first row will bring me out to where I started. So now that I'm back to where I started, I'm going to go up through the first bead in that pair, and I'm going to start adding my third row. I'm going to pick up one of my seed beads onto my third color here, and I'm going to go through the second bead in that pair of two. So what this will do is add that little pink bead there. That'll add my third color, sitting right between the two of my B color. So I've got B, A, B, C, B. I'm going to pass through the next B color, pick up the C color, and go through the next B. Pass through the next B color, pick up my C color, and through the next B. And I'm going to do this the whole way around here. So I'm adding that C color so it sits between the pairs of the B color. And I'm doing this the whole way around. If you do this all in one color at this point, it tends to look like a little star. So it's a really cute little, just like a little charm if you want to do it in one color or in multiples. It's a really cute little charm, quick and easy charm. So I'm coming out of the B color here, and I'm ready for my next row. So I'm going to pass through the next B color, and that'll tie my whole second row together. And then I'm going to go through the C color that sits there between the two B color. So now this is my fourth row. So far, so good. So far, I'm staying on track with the rows. So this is my fourth row now, and I'm going to connect the C color here with my D color. And I'm going to pick up 3 of those Ds, 3 of the D color, and continue through to the next C. Pick up another 3 of my D color, and on through the next C color. Again, 3, and pass through the next C. So you can see pretty clearly here the different rows. I always think it's much better to learn this way with different colors, even if it doesn't make the prettiest bead that you were envisioning. I always prefer to use different colors for learning, because it's, especially on something like this where you don't really have a whole lot of other visual markers, like you don't have a lot of different kinds of beads, you just have one, and it can be very confusing if you're not using different colors. Things can kind of blend together and it's hard to tell where you are. So go ahead and get to this point, and then we'll talk about continuing up the sides. Right now we just have the bottom here. So you can see this is what it's going to look like around the hole. So we'll continue up the sides, and then we'll go ahead and cinch it in at the other end here. So get to this point here, and then we'll continue. So I just finished my fourth row, and I finished that, or I did that fourth row with my fourth color here, my D color. My thread is currently coming out of the C color here, the pink bead. I'm going to pass through 3 of the D color. And as I do that, I give it a little pull. You can see that this is starting to form a little bit of a dome. And that's what we want, because it's going to fit right around that circle. And we want this to fit around this. It's really a sphere because it's 3D, but we want it to fit right around this ball or sphere and fit very snugly. So I actually kind of like this color combination, and I think it's going to look a little bit like a sweater when I'm done. So, so I'll have some fun with this one. Coming out of those 3 of the D color here, and I'm going to do something very, very simple now. I'm just going to go around and pick up my beads in a peyote kind of fashion here. So I'm going to go back to my A color, and I'm going to pick up a turquoise here, my A. I'm going to skip the pink below and go through the next bead. So that's easy. I'm setting the turquoise bead here right on top of that pink bead. And I've gone through just the next, through one of my D color beads, pick up an A, skip over one of the D color, and go through the next D color. So in that set of 3, I'm adding one of my seed beads, so then it sits in the center there. Pick up another of my A color, and go through the next D color. Pick up an A, and through the next D. So you can see here, even though it may look a little unusual for peyote, because they are a little offset here more than normal, it's just a regular peyote stitch here where I'm picking up one color, skipping over a bead and picking up and then going through the next. So again, just going through a D color, picking up an A, and going through a D color. And I'm going to do this the whole way around. Until I get back to the beginning. Oops. If you get your thread tangled, take a minute to get it untangled. And here I am almost done. And you should be able to feel that as you're working on this, it's pulling into more of a dome or like sort of a basket or a bowl shape, which is perfect because that's what we want to fit over our bead. So I'm passing through my last D color here that I need to in this row. And I'm going to pass through the next bead, which is that turquoise bead. That's the A color. I'm going to pass through that one, and then I'm ready to begin the next row. And you can see here that this is forming a little bit more of a dome here, and it's going to sit really nice and snug on my bead. So now the next row that I'm going to do is starting here with this B color. I'm going to pick up 2 of my B color and go through the next A color, and then I'm going to pick up 1 of my B color and go through the next A, 2 of my B, pass through the A, 1 of my B, pass through the A. So I'm just alternating, picking up 2 or 1 of my B color. And again, this is just a regular peyote stitch, but I'm just alternating, picking up 2 or 1 of my seed beads in between my A color. So as I do this, it's actually going to start pushing the sides out and making the sides kind of grow out a little bit more to fit around the sphere here. And I need I need 1 bead, 1 of my B, go through the next A bead, and now I'm here at the end. I can go through the next 2 beads, which are the B color, so I'm going through those 2 B color seed beads, and I'm ready to begin the next row. And you can periodically stick this wood bead, this wood form in there just to make sure that you're on track. But so far so good, and I like the way this sky is turning out. So this next row is just going to be peyote stitch. And I'm going to move on here and use my pink bead here, my C color. So I'm coming out of 2 of that B color. I'm going to pick up 1 of the C color, go through the next B, pick up 1 C, go through the next 2 of the B color, and so on. Picking up 1 of the C color and going through the B color all the way around here. Now the last two steps I'm going to repeat a few times here. So I'm going to continue working up the side of the form, repeating those two steps. So we'll go through this one more time. And I'm going through my last of the B color. And I'm going to step up here and go through my first C color to begin the next row. I'm going to hold my the piece that I'm working on here. I'm going to hold the cover now along with the bead. Maybe a little tricky at first, but I'm going to hold these two pieces together because then that'll help me actually make this fit snugly, and I need to at this point start building it on the bead rather than get too far along and then realize I can't fit it on the bead. So here I am ready to start the next row. And I'm coming out of my pink bead, my C color here. I'm going to go ahead and pick up the B or the D color. And I'm going to pick up one. And I'm going to go through the next bead. The C color. I'm going to now pick up two of my D color and go through the next C. One of the D through the C, and two of the D and through the C. So you can see now, I'm going to repeat the peyote stitch a few more times here. And one row of peyote is going to be alternating two sets of two and one bead. And the next row of peyote is going to be one bead between the sets of two or one bead. So you'll be able to tell here what you need to pick up, because if you look at the green bead below here, the bead that I picked up 2 rows ago, I've got 2 green beads here, so I need 2 of my bead that I'm putting right on top of that. And here I've gone through the C bead. I have one little green bead here, so I'm going to pick up one of my D color and through the C. I have 2 beads showing here, so I'm going to pick up 2 of my D color. Oops. I have 1 bead, so I'm going to pick up 1 of my D, and I have now 2 beads showing below, so I'm going to pick up 2. And so on until I get to the end here. Now I'm going through my last C bead, and I'm going to step up through my D bead. Now this next row will be just a plain peyote stitch, and I'm going to pick up my A color and go through all of my D color. So the last 2 rows there of peyote stitch, I'm just going to repeat those until I have a total of, should be about 8 rows. I'm going to go ahead and work on this and let you know exactly what I have. But go ahead and continue here, and you're going to do some more rows until you've got the side pretty well covered, and then we're going to go back in here and cinch up the top. Once I've done 13 rows total, including where I started here, so that was my very first row around the hole here. After I've done 13 rows total, I'm now ready to start working on cinching in at the top here. So you'll know that you're where you need to be if you're having a hard time counting rows like I am, or like I sometimes can. You'll know that you're at the point where you need to start working inwards, because on the side here, you'll see that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 little stacks of bead pairs. So on that row of peyote where we would pick up 2 beads at a time, you can clearly see that on the side here, we've got a pair, a pair, a pair, and a pair. So you've got 4 pairs stacked on top of each other. And after that last peyote stitch using the pairs, after that last row, I did one row of peyote stitch using just 1 bead, picking up just that 1 bead. And now I'm ready to start cinching in my design here and working closer to the hole here and covering the other end. So that would be, like I said, 13 total rows. And you can also tell, because if you have 4 colors like I do, you'll be able to count. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then 13. So I know that I'm on my 13th because I'm on this color bead here. So just some little tricks to help you learn how to count those rows if you're doing it like I am with the different colors. So here I am now ready to start making this a little bit smaller. So I've got I can see here the row beneath where I'm working is that row of peyote where we picked up a pair and then a single bead, a pair and then a single bead. So now I'm going to work on my next row of peyote here, picking up just 1 bead. I have my A color here where I'm coming out, and I'm going to start here with my B color. And I'm going to go around, passing through each one of my A color and picking up 1 B. So passing through the A and just passing through 1 B. So this is just a very plain peyote stitch. And we're starting to decrease the number of beads that we're using. So our beads will start sitting closer to the form and kind of falling inward. It's important that at about halfway through this project that you make sure that your bead in the center here, that your wooden bead, your form, is inserted in the cover, because you can't put it in after you start making your form smaller. You have to make sure that it's in there and you're working around it before you start making your form smaller. So I'm going through my last A bead in that row and through the next B bead to start the next row. I'm going to do another row here where it's just plain old peyote. So I've moved on to my C color now. So just a simple go through a B color, pick up a C color. All the way around here. So hopefully at this point you are, if you've decided to do multiple colors, you're appreciating how much easier it is to do this kind of thing with multiple colors. Beaded beads are always one of those things that can be very hard to teach, because it can be very difficult to keep track of where you are in the steps. So the multiple colors helps me out a lot. So I'm going through my last B color and through the next C color to start my next row. So here now I'm going to end it, or I'm going to end this side around the hole differently than I started over here. So it's not, you can't follow the exact same steps because you're starting from further down on the bead instead of up at the top here by the hole. So now what I'm going to do is, moving on to my D color here, I'm going to pick up 3 of my D color and I'm going to pass through the same bead where my thread is coming out. So I'm passing back around through that C color, and I'm putting 3 of my little D color on top of that C color. I'm passing through the next 4 beads. So that will be a B and a C color, through another B and a C color. And now on this C color bead here, I'm going to pick up 3 of my D color and again loop back around through that C color to form a little sort of triangle sitting right on top of that C. Through the next 2 and the next 4 beads, I go through them in pairs because it's kind of easier like that. Needle just kind of glides through that way. And another 3 of my D and around the C. My thread is getting kind of short here, so I may need to get more thread. We'll see how far this takes me. I don't think it's going to take me very far. So I'm going to pick up another 3 of my D and around the C color below. And at this point, I'm going to get some more thread. So I'm going to take my needle and thread through some of my beads and just kind of get to a nice spot where I can attach a new piece of thread. So I'm going to do that off camera, but I'll come back here and show you how I finish. So if you're like me, if you're running out of thread, you're just going to take your needle and thread, take it through some of your beads here, and let me get myself a nice piece of thread and I'll show you how I do that. So we'll take a little detour here and I'll show you how I add thread. So I'm going to take a little detour here and just show you how I add thread. So if you know how to add thread, go ahead and skip this little section because you won't need it and it may just confuse you. So just go ahead and skip forward if you don't need to know how to add thread. But if you do, if you've not done this much, then you can follow along with me next time you need to add thread and we will do this together. This is the tail thread that came very short and I just took my needle off of that. The important thing when you're starting to add thread is that you need to know where you want to start your project up again. So where you need to be in position to continue your pattern. I know I want to be coming out through this little pink bead here. That's where I want to do my next step. So I'm going to just kind of backtrack and I'm going to attach my thread a little bit before that so that I can take my needle and thread through that bead, work forward to that bead. So I'm going to take just one of these 11-O's, doesn't really matter which one, and I'm going to take my needle and thread through, and this is my new needle and thread, and back through again to use this as a little stop bead. So now my thread is wrapped around that one bead, and I have a little bit of a tail here, but not too much. So I found the point where I'm going to do my next step, and I just went backwards a little bit and found a place to use that as a stop bead. So I just found a bead to use to wrap my thread around. Now I'm going to take my needle and thread through my project, through the beads, just like I would if I were continuing on to the next step. And here I am where I'm going to start again with following my instructions here. So now I'm all good to go. So I'm gonna step back here and continue on with my project. Again, if you know how to add thread, absolutely you can ignore this section and skip ahead. But for all of you who don't know, hopefully that was helpful. And now you know how to add thread to a project in the middle of it. So I've added my thread, and so you can see here I've got some tails going on here, some extra tails. So I'm just going to have to ignore those for now. And I'm continuing along here, adding my 3 of my D color on top of the C color. I'm passing through 4 beads right now, going through that next C color. And now I've got one more set of 3 to add. And that was the last one. And I know it was the last one because I'm only adding 6 sets of 3. Once you've got those 6, you're done. I'm going to continue on through the next B and the next C, and through the next B and the next C to get back to where I started this row. So now the last piece here for me to do is to connect these. I'm going to take my needle and thread and go through 2 of the D color. So the D on the side and the D at the top, the D color here in the center. And as I do that, it'll kind of change the direction that I'm working. So if I was working counterclockwise, as I go up through 2 of the D color, I'll be now working clockwise. And I'm going to pick up one of my A color here, go back to the beginning, and I'm going to go through the next center bead in that little set of 3 of the D. So I'm connecting all of these center beads with an A color, working around here, picking up the next center bead and pulling, and you'll see that as I do that, I'm pulling that set of 3 beads using the center towards the hole, and that will pull everything together and form a nice little, it'll form the end here of my beaded bead. So just picking up one A, going through the next set of 3, I'm just going through that center one, and picking up one of the A, going through the next D bead there. So now I'm back to the beginning, and you can tell that you're back to the beginning, of course, because you've picked up 6 of that A color. And so you can see here how it looks a little bit different because of the way that we worked each end. I'm going to go back through all of these beads here that form the top, through the A and the D beads. And I'm going back through here just to pull them all tight. As you're doing this, you may notice that the D beads they might be kind of flopping around a little bit because the D beads on the side here, to the right and the left here of your pink bead or your C color bead, they're not really tied down as much as the other beads. So I like to go back and kind of fix that. So I'm going to go through one of the D beads here at the top. And then I'm going to go through this kind of second to last row here. And the way I'm going to hold these D beads down and just kind of get them to sit properly is I'm going to go pass down through one of the D's, go through one of the C's, and then up through one of the D's. Skip that center D, and I'm going to go down through a D, through the C, and then up through the D. Skip over the center D and go down through the next C bead and up through the next D. So I'm just kind of going up and down through the beads here so that I pull them in the right direction and I get those D beads a little bit more stable and sitting correctly. And you can see as you do that, it tightens things up a little bit and gets them to sit sort of at an angle like the beads on the other end of our beaded bead here. So it just kind of pulls everything together. So there you have it. Now the very last thing for me to do is just to bring my ends together, tie them off, and burn them down. So here I'm just going to, I'll show you how I do that with one of these here. Once you're confident that you've got this the way that you want it, you're just going to take your threaded needle and follow the thread path through your beads to get close to one of your thread ends. Now, because I had to add thread, I've got a few different thread ends in here. Ideally, I wouldn't have multiple. I would just have one thread end to connect to. So you want to cut enough thread if you can to not have to have multiple thread ends. But I'm just bringing these two thread ends together, doing a little overhand knot here, and a second one to make it secure. And at this point, you can burn that down. So you're just going to take your thread burner or scissors, whichever you use, and give that a nice little slice and burn that down. And I'll do the same for these. I'll put a needle on one of these ends and bring it close to the other one and tie it off. So there you have it. Oops. There you have it. There is my fun and kind of funky little beaded bead. I do love the way that this looks with multiple different colors on it. Kind of gives you this like broken line look, which I really like. So I might have fun with that and do some different colors on this. Now, let me show you here. I've got, again, the ones that I started out with. So you can see the difference here between color, different color for each step, one color for every step, and just a completely random sort of picking up the beads completely randomly. I've got 4 different colors on here. It's kind of hard to tell because they're all very similar to each other, all very golden colors, but it gives it a nice little variety. And when they're strung, they'll position themselves like that. So hope you have fun with this. Please post on Facebook and let me see what you do, because I would love to see what other kinds of designs and color combinations you come up with.